the event. And great.
If you hear the weird noise, it's just some woman that says that we're recording. Awesome. So hi, everyone. Welcome to the Dynamic Deltasig Fundraiser webinar. Thank you all for coming and hopping on and getting some really cool, insightful tips and tricks, all things regarding fundraising. I'll give myself a little introduction before the man of the hour starts his presentation. My name is Sarah Earl. I'm actually one of the newly hired educational and leadership consultants. I graduated from Lewis University, which is in Illinois. I'm from the Zeta Xi chapter, and I'm very happy to be here to be your MC almost for tonight. Just a couple little housekeeping things. If you have any questions at any time, I will be monitoring the chat. I'm sure Jay will see it as well, but if you want a direct message or just type in the chat, we can definitely get your questions answered. But that's a little bit about me. So now I'll turn it over to Jay to introduce himself, and let's get this started. Nice meeting you all.
Great. Thank you, Sarah. Yes, I'm so delighted that all of you are here this afternoon, this evening, and you're open to taking a look at this program that's designed to add some dynamics to the chapter fundraising and basically just give you some food for thought for what your chapter could do, what some of the possibilities are. So I'm Jay Carpenter. I am a Deltasig from Arizona State University, Gamma Omega. And that was a while ago, shall we say, but I love the fraternity. I've met lifelong friends through the fraternity. And this is just kind of a way to get interactive with the fraternity. I was asked, I guess it was last year, to do a webinar on entrepreneurship or whatever. And I thought, well, what would be better than a webinar? Jay's sitting here talking about, how to do this or that is, hey, let's actually get active. Let's actually create a program where the chapters could create some projects. And I have a project to share with you that we did when I was an undergraduate, where we raised a record amount of money and we applied some of our academic skills and created some networking opportunities that, I am so grateful to have over the years. So, are there any questions before I get started? We're going to spend about a half an hour here, and I have a presentation, but I just want to always open it up for questions. If there's anything, if you can't hear me or can't see me, that sort of thing, just let me know. So, okay, great. Well, let me go ahead and screen share, and I'm going to go through this presentation quickly, and then we'll kind of open it up for discussion and questions and so forth. So, and this presentation, you'll have a link to this, and you'll be able to access this afterwards. So hopefully you can see the presentation, and we're talking about a dynamic Deltasig fundraising. And the question to ask is, what is possible with chapter fundraising? Normally it's some sort of more or less direct expenditure of some sort of time or event for money, something like, some sort of sale of tickets or an event or that sort of thing. And the question I'm asking you to consider is, what else could be created with your chapter's fundraising efforts and initiative? And, what if the fundraising projects were dynamic and included some valuable entrepreneurial experience, business, community connections and collaboration with alumni, faculty, and the projects basically gave you an opportunity to apply some of your academic study. So that's kind of what we're going to venture into today. And just kind of overall, I've been an entrepreneur for years. I run the largest blockchain community in Arizona. We have about approaching 2,300 members here in Arizona. I've been successful in the securities business. I've been successful in telecommunications. And when I saw this thing called blockchain, I decided, hey, let's go out and let's create a community here in Arizona and see what we can do. So having all that experience, one of the things I would really ask you to consider is how valuable are connections and relationships that you could create during one of these fundraising activities. So not only is it connections and relationships, but it's also creating some experience and something that you could put on your resume as you complete your academic studies and get into the job market. And who knows, this project, if it fulfills the intentions that I have at least, might even lead to an internship or possibly a door into a company or an area that you're interested in establishing a career in. And the other thing about having a little experience in a particular area that you think you want to build your career within is sometimes it turns out that once you get into a particular industry or career, it's not exactly what you expected it to be. And this might be an opportunity for you to kind of dip your toe into the water in some particular realm that you're studying and so forth, and really make sure that it's the place that you want to be for however long your career is. So here's a couple of things just to consider for dynamics, just the definition of dynamics. It's concerned with motion and bodies and properties that stimulate growth and development and change within a system or process. And it's basically something that might have multiple dimensions to it that you can't even anticipate or foresee at this point. So the topics are basically what's possible, what could be created with your fundraising activities, what sort of collaboration could you create, what sort of connections could you create, what could you explore, could you experience, and how can you raise funds at the same time. And this is kind of maybe in the future, but it's also okay to, once this takes shape, you might be able to go to, your professors and say, hey, I'm doing this thing with our fraternity. It applies to some of our academic studies. Is there a possibility that I might be able to get extra credit for spending some time and doing this particular endeavor? Now, that's just a possibility. That's not, it's just kind of a bonus that you could do. So we're going to look at some examples. We're going to look at a timeline, kind of a rough timeline, and then we'll talk about, I'll get some feedback from you folks. I've already, some of you have shared what you're studying, and I'll try to apply the context of what you're studying to the possibility of this project and this endeavor. And then we'll conclude. So this is an article from the Arizona Republic, and it's dated, I hate to tell you this, but 1977. And one of those four people is me, the second one from the left. And this is a project that we did when I was an undergrad, which was one of our fundraising project, which was a survey for the Arizona State Fair. So our chapter, Gamma Omega, we raised $2,500. Even though the article says it was done gratis, we actually were paid $2,500, which was a huge amount of money in 1977. And we actually involved our chapter members in conducting surveys of people entering the Arizona State Fair and exiting the State Fair. We took that data. I really hate to tell all of you this, but we actually took the data from the paper surveys, and we typed it into IBM punch cards. and we ran it through an IBM computer. So if our program had crashed, that would have meant that we had dropped all our IBM punch cards in the breezeway or something. So anyway, but this was a lot of fun. And, you know, the people that you see here have been lifelong friends. We had a great time, and it was just something that was really, really awesome. And I would love to share that, you know, with you folks in your chapters. So some of the possibilities, and this is just brainstorming. We're not locked into anything here, but some of the possibilities that you could create through this project might be customer surveys. You might go out to a business and say, hey, we have great business students and they have some analytics skills and some data collection skills. Would you be interested in our chapter doing a customer survey to some of your existing customers, and we'll compile it and present it to you. And by the way, the target that I have for your projects is around a $2,500 target for, you know, the fundraising for this particular semester. And, you know, don't hold me to that, but that's just sort of the general target. Another possibility, just to give you some ideas and brainstorming, might be to look at a new product for a business that's in your area. And by the way, I think a lot of this can be accomplished via Zoom, similar to what we're doing, you know, right now. So that's an area that you could focus on, and you might do some interviews with actual potential customers to get focused, to get feedback on potential new products for a business. Or you might ask those potential customers, what products are they using that might be competitors of the business, and you might be able to give valuable feedback to businesses on how their customers or how their competitors are perceived. Online and virtual services feedback, and that could be, you know, things such as, you know, what's it like on the shopping cart experience for a business. You know, you're only limited by your imagination on this. And so those are just a few examples, and I'm going to go over an example of one project that actually started last semester and give you an additional idea in an actual project that materialized last semester. But some of the target clients that you might consider are, you know, obviously for-profit enterprises, could be nonprofit enterprises, could be public administrations. You might be able to do this for your local municipality or your state government or, you know, county government. I don't know. And it could be internal products and services. It could be competitors' products and services. So here is an example of what occurred last semester. And basically we had a session similar to this, and we had two chapters, and the request and the scope of this upcoming semester will be to take on two chapters that are interested in this. And basically we'll have half-hour sessions each week at a designated time to get the project off the ground, to get it going, and to basically manage the project. But last go round, we had a chapter from the East Coast and a chapter from the West Coast. And as things progressed, the chapter from the West Coast stayed in the program, and I was able to connect us with a company called IRI Worldwide. And this is a picture of their website. Now, what IRI does is when you go to a drugstore or a supermarket or whatever, and you scan the barcode as you're checking out on the products, IRI is in the background compiling the data of all the customers for that particular enterprise and looking at, okay, what is selling, what is not selling. So, Emma is interested in data analytics, and Lou Jane is interested in supply chain. So this type of project might fit right within your areas of interest and study, because this represents an opportunity to get some actual experience with one of the two major companies that track consumer barcodes and activity in retail settings. Now, so here's what happened. IRI was creating a program that was designed for startups that were run by minority owners to actually use their services in order to get product placement in the retail sector, which is a difficult thing to do. So they were looking to, and they actually had a group of startups that they were going to work with. And I approached somebody that I knew that was within IRI, and I said, hey, we got this project. Could we, see if the students from Delta Sigma Pi might be able to get involved? And she said yes. And we actually got the chapters, or some of the members of the chapters, able to log into the database of IRI and start to play with their internal platform, start to learn it, and start to see how the chapter members could interface with these startups and assist them in their data analytics in order to get their new products on the shelves in the retail space. Unfortunately, there was a change at the top of IRI, and basically the project was put on hold. So we did not complete the project, but hopefully this gives you an idea of the type of initiative that might be possible through this dynamic Deltasig fundraising initiative. And we can talk about that more in the session next week, but hopefully this will give you an idea of the opportunity that's available, where you could actually get some hands-on experience with real live data, with real live companies, startups, and so forth, and create a project, help them analyze some data, and get a contribution or a donation to your chapter in return, plus make some great contacts. So here's the next steps. Basically, it's to take this session, your impressions from this session. You can use the recording and so forth. Go back to your chapter, see what they think, and then create like a project team. And my request is that you have no more than 5 as kind of like the core team, just so that there's accountability and it's manageable. But basically the target is to identify 5 people, or 3 to 5 people in your chapter that would be sort of the lead on this project. And then the idea is to include or open it up to all your chapter members, once the actual project is defined. But create that project team, and then if your chapter is interested in pursuing this, you can also approach faculty, alumni, other participants that might be businesses in your area. It might be other departments within your university. For instance, the computer science department, we had interest in the last go round from sort of a joint combination between the business college and the computer science. So there's all sorts of possibilities here. And then we would determine the objectives and the timeline. So here's the next target, which is after this session, we will have 2 half-hour sessions, one designed for the East Coast, which will be 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. my time, and then one for the West Coast, or you know, basically, anybody in between at 5 p.m. Pacific for basically the 2 chapters that, assuming there are 2 chapters that are interested in this, at least, that are interested in participating and taking this to the next level. So the way you can express your interest in this is to send me an email at the email rjcarpenter@gmail.com and just put subject, dynamic Deltasig fundraising interest. And then over the next week, I'll, get back to you and we'll, basically select a couple chapters to participate. So here is another resource for you, which is the fraternities guidance and suggestions on fundraising activities. And, there's like 138 projects that are suggestions for fundraising activities on this site. If you haven't been there, in this case, there's a picture of a car wash, and all those are great. But really what I'm asking you to consider is, could you create with your chapter a fundraising project that's more than fundraising, that has additional benefits for you and your members, that extend beyond just the fundraising activities. So here's a little background on me with my LinkedIn page. You're welcome to connect with me. Here's my contact information again. And this is the background that I'm currently using, which you are welcome to use as well. So I'll stop screen sharing, and I would love to hear your feedback at this point.
So with this like project that you're describing, that would be specifically with the IRI worldwide, correct? Or is it just kind of dependent?
No, IRI was just an example.
Okay.
So, Lou Jane, for instance, you are interested in supply chain. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It just so happens that Walmart is huge into blockchain and supply chain. And they funded the University of Arkansas, I believe is the last year, to create, to the tune of $95 million, to create a premier world-class supply chain and blockchain department. I happen to know one of the heads of that department, who is phenomenal in, supply chain, artificial intelligence, etc. So part of the session next week, if your chapter was interested in participating, is during the half hour, we would start to identify a couple areas that might be of interest to you and your chapters, and then approach, a company like Walmart. Now, I got to caution you, it can take quite a bit of time sometime to go through all the, layers of approval and so forth. And there's no guarantee that this could apply to Walmart, but, since that's your area of interest, and, the possibility of you doing a project that's somehow associated with the leader in supply chain and blockchain, Walmart, that's what I'm hoping to create. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So no, it's up to your imagination. And it might be some local business. Maybe one of your alums has an accounting firm, or who knows, some sort of, firm in your area that might be interested in doing some sort of customer survey. The opportunity is really for you folks to create this, yourself, and I will be your guide and kind of mentor in this. Does that make sense?
I can think of a couple people in my fraternity who would be interested in this. So how would I pitch it to them as something as, oh, we would offer companies help in some sort of information gathering on products or customers in order to help them improve their products into the retail, something like that.
That's one possibility, Emma.
Possibility. Okay.
Yeah, and the idea is to create a project to interact with, you know, businesses and enterprises and organizations that would have a well-defined scope, maybe no more than 30 days, and, you know, complete that project, do the presentation to the organization, and then, you know, basically earn some contribution or so forth to your chapter for the fundraising part of it.
So that process would be also going with the company about what they would want that would be useful for them. And it could be like we offer them something, and then the thing that could always happen is them saying, oh, never mind, like we don't really want that. Or if they're willing, they would try and negotiate with us.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, yeah.
I mean,
Getting the idea. Yeah.
question number one to anybody you're talking about is what's of interest to you? What would be most valuable to your business? You know, and then that's the number one question. We might have ideas, we might have suggestions that they hadn't thought of, but then the number one question is always, what are you interested in? Does that make sense?
Yeah, like what the company is interested in, right?
Right.
Okay.
Other questions? Comments? Does this look like something of interest?
Yes, thanks, Jay, very much. I am the chapter advisor, and I would like to have this link to share with I was just on here to learn and see what people are doing. And I would like to share it with my group to see if they'd be interested in doing something like this. But thank you very much for taking your time and doing this with us.
Absolutely. Thank you, Suzanne. And I did a little 2-minute introductory video that is on the Facebook page for Delta Sigma Pi. And you're welcome to, you know, share that video. You're welcome to share this once it's available. And underneath the 2-minute video that I did yesterday is a link to this presentation that you're welcome to share with your chapter and so forth. And you have my email, my phone number, and so forth. So I would appreciate hearing from you, answering any questions. I'm also available to, you know, do a Zoom session with your chapter and, you know, answer any questions they might have, or with prospective clients for this project. So I think,
thank you so much.
Great. And so thank you so much. You know, one of the things I emphasize is just each of you being a Delta Sigma Pi member shows initiative above and beyond, you know, other college students. And you holding, you know, office, being the VP of Finance and so forth, that's additional, you know, initiative in my view. So if I was in the position of, you know, hiring for a business, I'd want to be talking to you folks. So that's it. Sarah, unless you have anything else, that's pretty much concludes.
No, I think you've iterated it all. You know, as a consultant, a new one as well. I think, you know, new ideas is always something to take advantage of. I know if I was still chapter president back at my chapter, I'd be all over this. You know, definitely take it in, not only just like in a CMP aspect and let's get our fundraising done and whatnot, but also, you know, networking, getting to know people, building that bridge. You know, a great mentor of mine once said, it's not what you know, it's who you know. You know, making those connections early on can only help you. So great presentation, Jay. Is there any additional questions on the floor right now? Seeing none. All right, guys. Well, I will stop recording. You'll hear